Hello everybody, this is the Backflipmaster. This is going to be a tutorial on how to solve the 2x3x3. Now the 2x3x3 is very similar to the 3x3x4. In fact, the 3x3x4 is just two of these put together. So you have one in the middle and then one on the outside. So if you can solve a 3x3x4, you can probably figure out how to solve a 2x3x3. Now this method I will be teaching you in this tutorial is, I believe, different than most people's. It uses the method I use for the 3x3x4. For this tutorial, you do not need to know how to solve a 3x3 Rubik's Cube for this tutorial. The solution for this is not similar to the Rubik's Cube, so don't worry if you don't know how to solve it. So this method is pretty simple. It's a combination of two methods. It's a combination using the Cube for You algorithms that come on the box of the 3x3x4 and Jap's method. Sorry if I say Jap wrong, I think it's Yop, but Jap's method. If you go to Jap's puzzles page, he has some good algorithms for this. So I combined the Cube for You algorithms with Jap's algorithms and came up with a pretty good method. I've been using this method a while for the 3x3x4, and today I'm going to show you how to apply that to the 2x3x3. So standard notation for all the sides where you can only do a 180-degree turn. So this will just be R instead of R2. Just you can't really do an R, just like an R on here. You just have an R would just be turn the right layer. An L would just be that. An F just be that. A B would just be that. And then of course you have U, U prime, D, D prime. So it's pretty simple notation, and this should be easy to follow. So let's get into the first step. Okay, the first step in solving the 2x3x3 is to solve all the corners. Now the first step of that step is to solve the corners of one layer. So it doesn't matter if you start with white or yellow or whatever your top and bottom colors are. So getting one layer corners, you want to start by matching up two corners. This process is really easy and it's really intuitive. You should be able to figure out this by yourself. Here I see a white red corner, and I also see the other white red corner. You have green and blue. So now to match these up, I can move this white red corner to the back, so when I bring this white red up into the top layer, the reds are matched up. If you didn't see that, you move the corner to the other side, so when this corner comes up, they're matched up here in the back. And then we'll go ahead and just bring them down to the white layer. And so now you have two corners. Now the other two corners are also intuitive. In this case, they're already matched up for me. That happens a lot, but if they weren't, say you have a case like this where you have three of the bottom corners matched up, what you want to do is you want to take the third corner that's in the top, and this piece goes here, but you'll want to put it in the wrong place so it doesn't match up. And then you have the piece that is supposed to go here. This is pretty intuitive. It's kind of hard to explain, but so you get the oranges matched up. Now there's different ways. If you have this here, then you can move the orange away, match it up, and bring it down. You should be able to figure this step out by yourself. Not too hard. If you have a case where you have two of the bottom corners solved, but the other two need to switch places. So you have all the white, but they're not matching up. Just want to bring up both of those two, bring one of them back down. See here it's solved, and now I have that last case where I want to put this other corner in the wrong position so it's not matching up. Bring this corner over here so when the orange comes up, they match up, white, orange, and then just put it in. And that is how to solve the bottom layer corners. Now the next step in solving the 2x3x3 is to get the top layer corners. So there's only two cases you can have for the top layer corners. One is where you have two adjacent edges that need to be swapped. I can tell that because I have two corners matching up here and here. If they're over here, you can still tell they're matched up, orange orange. You can just go ahead and put them in place. And you have these two. You have red green, blue red, blue red. Now to switch two adjacent corners, you have a very simple algorithm, and it's easy to memorize. You're going to put the two corners that need to be swapped in the bottom back. So the top layer would be solved, the first layer did, and you have these two back here that need to be swapped. And the algorithm to switch these two adjacent corners is R, F, D prime, F, D, R, D prime, F, D, R. And there we go, that will swap these two back corners, which are now over here. I'll show you that algorithm again. R, F, D prime, F, D, R, D prime, F, D, R. And then you have to turn the top layer once. The other case you can have for the permuting the top layer corners is where you have two opposite pieces that need to be swapped. You can tell this case by if you have no matching stickers on each side. So here I have orange red, green blue, orange red, green blue. So I know I don't have the adjacent, which that means I have the opposite swap. Now for the opposite swap, you hold the two corners on the top, one on the front right, one on the back left. It doesn't really matter. If you hold it this way, then these two will be swapped and that will still be solved. So it doesn't matter how you hold the top layer. This algorithm is R, U2, F, U, R, U2, F, U prime, R, U2, F, U prime again. And that will swap these two opposite corners. And using those two cases, you should be able to solve the top layer corners. There isn't a possibility where you have to do both. It's either the adjacent or the opposite unless you do the wrong algorithm. So you have either one of those two cases for solving the corners. So now all your corners should be solved, top and bottom layers. Now the next step is to solve one layer's edges. So it doesn't matter if you solve the white layer's edges or the yellow layer's edges. It doesn't matter which corners you solved first. You can kind of look around and see. I see on the yellow layer, I already have the red-yellow edge solved. On the white, I don't have any solved. These two in the wrong place. So in this case, I'd probably start with yellow since I'd only have to solve 3 corners instead of 4. So how you solve edges? What you want to do is you want to hold the side you're solving on the bottom, and you want to look for that color edge on the top. So here I'm solving yellow. I hold yellow on the bottom and I look for a yellow edge. Here's a yellow edge. I see it's yellow-green. So let's go ahead and find the yellow-green. Here it is. And here's the edge that I want to move from here to here. and it will be solved once I do that. So I want to move this corner to the back of the top layer, and this algorithm will move it from here to here. This is a very simple algorithm. All it is R, F, R, U2, R, F, R. And that moved the corner from the back of the top layer to the front of the bottom layer. Now we go to the next edge in the top layer. Here I have orange yellow, and I see it needs to go down here in the orange yellow slot. So I want to move this edge to the back and move the edge from here to here using the following algorithm: R, F, R, U2, R, F, R. And that solved this edge. Now I go back to the top layer, and here I have one more edge to put in, blue yellow. So I'm going to find the slot and move this edge to the back. Now move the edge from here to here. It's the same algorithm: R, F, R, U2, R, F, R. Now once you see that there are no more yellow edges, the color you are solving, in the top layer, you want to look at the bottom layer and make sure all the edges match up. So here we go, all the edges are solved. Now if they're not, you don't need to worry too much. You can solve these later once I teach you how to permute edges. Or you can take out the edge using the same algorithm and then put it in the right place and solve that. So now you have solved one complete layer, and you also have the top layer corner solved. Now the last case is to solve the top layer edges. Now to solve the top layer edges, there are two algorithms that you need to know, and you will need to combine these two algorithms in most cases to solve the case you have on the top. There are many different cases you can have for the permutation of the edges, and so there's just two algorithms you need to know to solve that. They are both really simple, and they're pretty much the same algorithm, just with a setup move before it. The first algorithm swaps two opposite edges. The second algorithm swaps two adjacent edges. So when you get to the top layer edges, you want to look for an edge that needs to go across the cube. This is how I do it. I look for an edge that goes across the cube. So I want to find all the cases I can where I use the first algorithm that swaps two opposite edges. Here I have found a white-red edge, and it needs to go in the white-red spot. So I need to switch these two edges. Now these two edges will switch in the following algorithm. And this algorithm is R, U2, R, U2, R, U2. That's it. So what that does is just switches these two edges. Now let me show you what that algorithm looks like on a 3x3 and why you can use this on here. If you do that algorithm on a 3x3, R, U2, R, U2, R, U2, it switches these two top edges, but it also switches these two. But on a 2x3x3, there is no middle layer, so you can use that algorithm however you want and not disturb the pieces you've already solved. So that swaps two opposite edges. Now here I have a case that needs swapping two adjacent edges. So I want to hold these edges, one in the front, one on the right, and do the setup move R, D, B. Now what that did is it brought this edge down, across, and up. So now they are across from each other. So intuitively thinking, now I can do algorithm number 1 to switch these two. So here it goes. R, U2, R, U2, R, U2. Now they're switched, but now I need to undo the setup move. B, D prime, R. And that swapped these two edges. Now you will need to use a combination of both of those algorithms to be able to solve it. So that is how to solve a 2x3x3. Those are the 4 steps. Solving one layer at corners, solving the other layer corners, solving one layer's edges, and then solving the other layer edges. So right now what I'm going to do is do a quick walkthrough solve, not as slow as the tutorial, definitely, but I will show you how to use the algorithms I just taught you in a 2x3x3 solve. Okay, so here's the scramble. Okay, so I'm just going to look for 2 corners that are already matched up. Well, I don't have any, so that means I'm going to have to match up the first 2 all by myself. So here I see a white orange and a white orange. So if I bring this corner to the back, then bring it down, now they're matched up. So I already have 2 of them. Now I need to get the other 2. Okay, here I have one corner which is in the wrong spot, but that's good, because if I had it in the right spot, I'd have to move it to the wrong spot, and you'll see why. Here I have red, white red right here, and here I have white red. So I put the red over here, and then turn this up. Now the reds are matching. If this piece was in its right spot, then I wouldn't be able to turn it straight up and match it up. So you want to have one of the corners in the wrong spot, have this, turn it, so when you bring this up, they're matching up in the back. It's pretty intuitive. You should be able to figure it out. And then just turn it down to the bottom layer. Now the top layer corners. Here I see 2 corners are already solved, so I'm going to put them in their place. And so that means I have to swap 2 adjacent corners. You will get this case most of the time. I rarely get the case where you have to solve 2 opposite corners. I don't know why that happens. I guess it's just more probable to get the adjacent edge swap. So it's more important for you to know the adjacent swap algorithm. You don't actually need to know how to perform the opposite swap algorithm, because you could just use 2 adjacents if you don't know that case. So to swap adjacent edges, or corners, excuse me, you're going to put them in the bottom back and do the algorithm R, F, D prime, F, D, R, D prime, F, D, R. And then you have to move the top layer. And so that solved these 2 back edges, corners. 2 back corners. Now, what you want to do is you want to solve 1 layer's edges. Now here I see that I have 1 edge solved in the yellow layer, and 1 edge solved in the white layer. So it doesn't really matter which one I do. I practically have the same exact case on both ones. So I'll just pick this edge right here. I'll be solving white, so I hold the white on the bottom, have white red, find its slot, move it to the opposite, so come in from here to here, do the algorithm R, F, R, U2, R, F, R. And there we go. Now go back to the top layer. Here I have white, green. Now it's above its slot, move it to the back, do R, F, R, U2, R, F, R. Now I see white, blue. Here's the slot where it needs to go. So move it to the back, move it from here to here. R, F, R, U2, R, F, R. And then fix the top layer. Now you solve the top layer corner edges. Solve the top layer edges. So here I see that blue goes here and green goes here. So I just have an opposite swap, which means all I have to do is R, U2, R, U2, R, U2. Now, here's one more case that you can have for the top layer edges. You can have a case where you have 2 opposites. Now this case will be familiar to cubers as an H-Perm. Now you can use the H-Perm algorithm for this case. If you don't know the H-Perm algorithm, you don't need to know it, but here it is. It's M U M U2 M U M. Pretty simple. Okay, so for the rest of the walkthrough solve, let's say I had this case when I get to the top layer edges. I want to look for edges that I can use the opposite swap on. So here I see green, that needs to go over here. So these two, I can swap these two and the green will be solved. So I'll go ahead and do that. R, U2, R, U2, R, U2. Now I want to do the same thing, look for opposite swap. Here I see orange, needs to go over here. So I can just do an opposite swap. R, U2, R, U2, R, U2. Now, since there's no more opposite swaps, just have these two, which is an adjacent swap. So I do the setup move, R, D, B, and then do algorithm number 1 to swap these two. R, U2, R, U2, R, U2, and then undo the setup move, B, D prime, R. And that will solve your 2x3x3. So that's all you need to know to solve the 2x3x3. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you can solve it now. So thanks for watching, and have a nice day.